Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology, Honorable Buti Manamela. We thank him very much for the commitment that he has as an ambassador of the Skills Development Summit. He really comes through when we are having these engagements, and do look out for the projects that the department is currently initiating to ensure that the skills shortage is curbed and is addressed accordingly. Without further ado, I wish to invite our next keynote address, Ms. Paula Quincy. She'll be speaking to us about growth mindset and emotional intelligence as also a critical skill that we need to have, not only as entrepreneurs, but in the employment workplace. And I realized that there was a study, Paula, that was conducted saying that companies on average are losing about $40 million per annum because of the lack of emotional intelligence with the employees. So I really look forward to hearing what you have to say to us today. She is from Growth Mindset Catalyst, which is Attitude Communications. And thank you very much, Paula. Over to you.
Thanks, Tabang, and hello everyone. Welcome to be here today. So yeah, the World Economic Forum's latest report has shared that 50% of all employees will need to be reskilled by 2025. 50%, so that's half of your workforce. And what they're saying or predicting is that the top 10 essential skills predicted for 2025 fall into 4 different categories. And those categories are technology use and development, problem solving, self-management, and working with people. And of those 10 top skills predicted for 2025, 8 of the 10 fall into what is commonly referred to as soft skills. I like to call them human skills because it's what makes us human. It's that human side of us that what people may refer to as the warm and fuzzy, or the emotional intelligence, the personal mastery, or self-awareness, mindfulness, whatever term you want to call it. But 8 of the top 10 skills fall into the soft skills category. So what does that mean exactly? Well, when it comes to technology use and development, besides the AI and robotics that we were all talking about in the 4th Industrial Revolution, it's as simple as noticing the tech trends and the apps that are constantly popping up. But more importantly, at a very simple level, it's just about becoming tech savvy. And we've all had to grapple with that. Like right now, getting used to operating on Zoom or MS Teams or GoWebinar, whatever platform or channel that you have been operating on for the last 18 months. From a problem-solving point of view, it's really about the critical thinking, innovative, creative productivity, how to project manage your time, as well as the different tasks or projects or outputs or deliverables that you are responsible for. Working with people is really your social skills, and it's really about building relationships. It's about leading and influencing, especially in a remote environment now, which has thrown a lot of leaders upside down and that, because we're so used to leading in the workplace and in person that it takes very different skill sets to lead in a remote world. It's also about engagement and how do we keep our teams and our companies engaged? How do we keep the corporate culture alive? And more importantly, how do we collaborate in an online environment versus an in-person environment? It was very quick and easy to walk across the passage to someone's desk or go and grab a coffee and have a coffee chat together or brainstorm around a table. But how do we do that in a remote environment? And then from a self-management point of view, what everybody is talking about is resilience. It's a big buzzword that's being thrown around. How do we be more resilient? How do we talk about self-awareness, confidence, growth mindsets? How do we focus? How do we be more effective? And how do we take care of our own well-being? Mental health being very topical at the moment. And so what does that mean when we talk about mental health? And what a lot of people actually mean when they say mental health is they're talking about self-care routines and time off devices and being able to implement boundaries. But what we're not talking about is the full spectrum of mental health issues, such as depression, chronic loneliness, isolation, and disconnect, and the impact that this has on our immune system. And there's global research that was done long before COVID came about on the looming loneliness epidemic, where the research shows that the impact on our immune system is the equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, making it much more deadlier than obesity. And can you imagine, the impact on what that does to someone who feels like they are alone in this world? And even though we are online and we are connected to our teammates and to our friends and our family members, people are still experiencing loneliness and isolation and disconnect. And next to this, the next biggest concern for companies and a lot of corporates that I'm working with is that of burnout. A lot of people are claiming that they are fatigued, they are digitally fatigued, they don't have energy, their productivity levels are dropping. And so there's three things that really contribute to burnout, and that is exhaustion, so being overextended, so working longer hours than before. And I know many people that are saying that their personal hours and their work hours are being blurred into one. I was talking to a person that I was working with a couple of weeks ago, saying that they are working until 10, 11 o'clock at night because of the project that they're working on and the deadlines and deliverables that they have to adhere to. Another thing that gets us down in terms or contributes to burnout is cynicism or negative, either negative mindsets, or we're being exposed to negative environments, whether that's a toxic workplace and toxic culture, or just the people that we are being exposed to that are fatigued, that are disengaged, that are just not able to carry on anymore because we've been trying to put up a brave face for the last 18 months. We've tried to, rah, we can do this, we can get through this. We started baking banana bread, we started doing all of these things. But the longer we've gone into lockdown and experienced different levels of lockdown, it's become unsustainable because life is not one constant high all the time. Life has ups and downs, and we've started to realize that we are actually human, and that there are days where we struggle to drag ourselves out of bed. And then this negative self-evaluation around questioning our purpose in life, questioning our roles in the workplace, questioning our deliverables, and questioning the meaning of life at large. And a lot of people are feeling lost in terms of their identity and where they fit in. They're questioning their identity, especially if they have experienced lots of loss in their life. So real loss in terms of COVID and people close to them, but also simple things that we never really registered before. The simple act of getting up and going to an office or a place gave us a sense of purpose. It gave us a sense of we had somewhere to go to and somewhere to be in, a place to belong each day. And that's been taken away from us. And now we're trying to find a new way of belonging in a virtual and remote world. And it's taking a lot more effort from us on a human perspective, and especially from a leadership perspective. So some of the things that are triggering mental health issues is long hours, no breaks, unrealistic expectations, not feeling valued or appreciated, not feeling supported by our managers or our peers or our organization, job insecurity, and alone working. Spending long hours at home in the same room online back to back gives us that sense of cabin fever and the walls closing in on us. And these are very real things that we are all dealing with in our own way because it affects everybody differently. There's also something that we are not talking about under the mental health banner, and that is gender-based violence and harassment. We have seen the stats spike globally as well as locally from a divorce perspective, but also in terms of gender-based violence. And a lot of companies are now having to start implementing gender-based violence awareness training, as well as updating and reviewing their policies to accommodate and cater for abuse in the home, which has now become the workplace, as well as online. Sexual harassment generally used to take place in the workplace or outside of physical workspaces, but we're now seeing a spike in the online space too. And we've had to update our employee wellness initiatives to cater for these support structures that we need to put in place. So what does that mean from a skills perspective? Well, from a leadership perspective, we've had to develop new leadership skills. The two key ones being holistic and empathetic. Holistic being we are now seeing our employees as the whole. We are managing them in their personal, intimate space, in their home environment. We're seeing what they're struggling with on a day-to-day basis with managing the roles of juggling work and life and home and having to homeschool kids and take care of other people as well, whether it be elderly parents or other people in their home environment. And we've had to be empathetic towards their needs and towards what they are going through, while at the same time trying to take care of ourselves and our own mental health and well-being. So having to be empathetic that, yes, our work structure, we may have had our team meetings at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, but we actually can't do that or expect our employees to be online at 10 o'clock because some of them may be homeschooling their children. So we've had to become much more flexible and adaptable and adjust our structures accordingly as we see and work with our employees from a whole level. Mental toughness has become a big thing. We've had to really drag ourselves out of bed on some days and to be productive and proactive. And there are three key skills that we are having to develop for ourselves as individuals. The first one being self-leadership, which really just means that how do I find the ability to consciously influence my own thoughts and behavior in order to achieve my personal and or the organization's goals and objectives. On those days where I'm finding it that I'm really struggling, what support structures do I tap into? Who do I speak to? How do I make sure that I can still deliver, even if it is only 3 tasks for that day, which in itself could be seen as a success? The next one is self-discipline, and self-discipline is really about finding a compelling reason to do something and committing ourselves to see that task or that activity through to the very end. Being remote, we may feel like we are out of the loop. We are not in touch with what the rest of the team or the organization is doing. And this is where communication is required. And I say to organizations that I work with, you cannot over communicate. Rather over communicate and let people know what's going on. Even if there are sensitive issues you cannot disclose, but disclose as much as you can to keep people in the loop, to feel like they are a part of what's going on and that they know that their needs are being catered for and that they also know where the organization and the company is at and what steps the company is taking to keep the business going, as well as to give everybody a sense of that where their contribution is contributing to different areas of the business and that they are being valued and appreciated in the process. And then adaptability, which is what a lot of people are referring to as resilience, being able to adapt to difficult situations and managing our emotions in the same process to be able to keep functioning and operating, to do what needs to get done on a daily basis. We've also had to redefine what success looks like for us. For some people, the fact that we still have our health and our well-being, that we have not yet contracted COVID 18 months down the line, in itself is success. We've had to look at putting different support structures in place, both internally within our organizations. We've had to relook at our employee wellness support offerings and also our training and development needs to help our staff to be upskilled and reskilled, because even though our job functions and our job titles haven't changed, the way that we work and where we work certainly has changed. We've had to look at different training needs for our staff, and we've had to also align it to the business strategy and where businesses are going. We've also had to look at taking ourselves and updating and upskilling ourselves in our own personal capacity together with what the organization is offering us from an opportunity perspective. And then the capacity to celebrate life in the smallest of ways. The fact that we still have our jobs, the fact that we still have our health, the fact that we may still have our loved ones around us, but also being able to remember the people that were close to us that potentially have been a casualty of the last 18 months. Being able to implement mindfulness techniques and being fully present in the here and the now, the self-care routines, taking breaks, implementing the 90-20 rule. Research shows that 90 minutes online, 20 minutes offline, doing other activities to give ourselves a break from being constantly online all the time. And being able to put boundaries down and push back and say, no, I'm not able to cope with this, or I'm not able to deal with this, or that it's okay to put your hand up and say, I'm not okay and that I need help. And that this does not make us weak, it does not make us ineffective or non-productive, it just makes us human at the end of the day. And how do we find that elusive work-life balance? How do we find harmony in what we're doing from a personal perspective, but as well as from an organization perspective? And this is where a lot of companies that I'm working with are starting to implement routines and boundaries to assist staff in dealing with work-life balance. For example, one company has made Wednesdays no online meeting day to actually help employees not be online all the time and to give them time to work on other tasks and other projects in different ways, whether that be thinking time, strategic time, or taking some time off for themselves. And then good health and keeping yourself safe, obviously within the COVID realms and the way that we deal with our day-to-day life in terms of our own families and our own personal structures, but also keeping it alive in the workplace and keeping our employees safe too. So at the end of the day, money doesn't make the world go round. Relationships do, and your people do. Your people are your business, and without your people, you don't really have a business, or at least one that can be effective and productive and deliver on what's being required from a business perspective and a strategy perspective and objectives and deliverables. So you either have a positive or a negative impact on the world. There is no in between, but at the end of the day, it takes all of us to collaborate and to be there together to develop our human skills and to be there for each other and support each other to not only thrive personally, but also to thrive as organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paula. That truly was an informative discussion about how do we apply emotional literacy and intelligence in the workplace and how costly it truly is. We thank you for your time. And indeed, we open up the platform for those who need to ask questions to do so and to also get in touch with you to learn more about the subject matter. Thank you very much, Paula.